On Thursday, January 5th, Grand County Search and Rescue was called out for an avalanche with a leg injury near the Broom Hut in First Creek north of Berthoud Pass. The party of backcountry skiers rescued and evacuated themselves. Grand County Search and Rescue never went into the field. Search and Rescue was told that 3 people were involved. One was buried for 10 to 15 minutes, one was partially buried, and one skier had a leg injury. There is little more information that Search and Rescue was able to pass on to the CAIC. We have not interviewed the involved party. What follows is based on my observations of the avalanche site on January 7th. The Broom Hut sits on the ridge between 2nd and 1st Creek, in sort of a broad bench. The avalanche was northeast of the hut, where the bench drops off into 1st Creek. In this image looking west, you can see the bench is tree covered. The slope has rocky outcrops at the top, and sparse trees down to the drainage bottom. This is what the avalanche looked like from down valley. You can see some of the rock outcrops on the bed surface near the crown. From the tracks, it looks like the group was making a descending traverse to the south, towards the ridgeline between 2nd and 1st Creeks. From the side, looking back north, you can see that this is relatively low-angle terrain. I assume that this was their intended traverse. Most of the slope has steepnesses in the low to mid-20s. However, there's a short section of quite a bit steeper slope at the rocky knob. The traverse would have cut below the steeper section. There were 2 obvious holes in the debris, marked with the red and the orange ovals. Following photos, the red oval marks the deeper of the 2 holes. Looking downslope from the crown, here's the deeper of the 2 holes, with a shallower hole to the looker's left and behind the tree. Party's presumed traverse comes across here, and it looked like there were tracks from 3 rescuers. 2 followed the traverse onto the avalanche debris and descended towards the holes. The 3rd descended a low-angle gully adjacent to the avalanche before cutting into the toe of the debris. From the boot tracks in the debris, it looks like this searcher may have been doing a transceiver search. This photo is looking north across the toe of the debris. My skis on the uphill side of the deepest hole. It's about 100 centimeters from the surface of the debris to the bottom of the excavation. I assume this person was the fully buried victim, given the size and depth of the excavated area. The shallower hole was further north. If this person was on the traverse, as I assume, it was on a pleasant ride between the trees. There was a 3rd area in yellow that had been excavated near the edge of the debris. This could have been the location of another party member, or the staging area for the rescuers. This photo is looking across the fracture at the top. There's a short section, maybe 40 to 60 vertical feet, of significantly steeper slope. I measured an average slope angle of 38 degrees across this photo. The slab was storm snow. Bed surface was a subtle thin crust. Didn't find the crust on the lower angle slopes near the toe, or on the slightly more northerly slopes adjacent to the avalanche. After several days, the storm snow had settled and was bonding to the old snow. Looking at the profile, the crust is definitely the layer to pay attention to. It's the bottom of the crust, though, that is structurally of more concern. To me, this avalanche illustrates several interesting factors. One is the importance of very careful terrain management during periods of considerable or high avalanche danger, as was forecast on Thursday. The slope to slid is a small feature, probably easy to overlook or discount. The visibility was horrible at times on Thursday too, and you could have easily missed it in flat light. It's also a subtle terrain feature. The low angle slopes to either side, the slightly more northerly aspects, may not have had as touchy of snow on Thursday. This avalanche also shows how much we can learn from close calls. Too often, the only avalanches that the CAIC gets to investigate in detail are fatalities. Non-fatal incidents are very rarely reported, or we hear about them third-hand or after a long period. With all our investigations, our goal is to understand what happened. We're not interested in blame or assigning fault. We'd rather highlight successes. In this case, multiple people rescued, and a group that evacuated themselves with no outside help.